Hello YouTube, my name is Paul, hope you're all keeping well. Welcome back to another Amiga Power Top 100 video, taken from this very magazine, August 1996. One of the very last magazines released by Amiga Power, before it disappeared forever. Now we're down to game 40 through to 31. Some familiar titles, some games I had back in the day. Probably one of my favourite shoot 'em ups ever on the Amiga. It might be my favourite shoot 'em up, to be fair. A public domain game that I completely forgot about until I started this video, and then all of a sudden the music was very familiar, and then I remembered. Blimey, I forgot all about that game. But yeah, it was all right. Not my cup of tea, to be fair, but it was a good public domain game. Yeah, one or two other games that have popped up before in previous Amiga Power Top 100 videos. So what I'll do is I'll read through the different captions that the Amiga Power staff wrote about these particular games, show you what the games look like in the flesh, just a brief chat about them really from what I remember. Or will they feature in my own Amiga Power Top 100? So yeah, let's crack on. So we begin at number 40, yet another old timer. This time perked up by a CD32 release. The isometric graphics look suitably dated, yet this arcade puzzle adventure, featuring a motorcycle courier pursued around an office block by mechanised defence droids, still hits the spot. A game I'm not overly familiar with, a game that I only ever seem to play when I do one of these videos, and that is Degeneration. People I speak to rate this game highly. Personally for me, I've not really gone beyond the second or third stage. Quite a nice little puzzler though. Takes a little while to get used to what activates what, but there are some quite quirky elements to the game and some quite nice bits of sense of humour as well. So I will certainly persevere. Therefore for me it will sit on the fence until I played this game for more than about 2 minutes. So at 39 then we have what is probably, arguably one of the best shooters on the Amiga. Certainly one of my favourites. What do Amiga Power think of it? Terrifically insane vertically scrolling shooty game with gorgeous graphics and a magnificent attention to the most minute of details. It's hard even as a two-player game, and the enjoyment is only slightly tainted by the fact that you've got to put a password to witness the worst excesses of violence, from murdered mums to poleaxed polar bears. Do you know what? I didn't even know that existed, a password. That's quite interesting. And that is Banshee. I've got a feeling they're taking the piss. Please tell me in the comments if they're not, because that's quite interesting. Now, I bought this game back in the day. Loved anything that came out for the Amiga 1200 specifically. And this game here, being a fan of 1942, 43, Flying Shark and all those sorts of airplane games, this was right up my street. But not only did this one scroll very smoothly, had a very large play area, the graphics were amazing. The animations, the baddies, the explosions, everything was just terrific, to be fair. And for me, yes, certainly would be in my Amiga Power Top 100. Mr. Bad's version, but yeah, brilliant game. Highly recommend this game. So at number 38 then is this PD game that I almost forgot about. Actually, I did forget about it, to be fair. It wasn't until the music played that the memories come flooding back. Yes, not really my cup of tea, like I said before. So number 38 is Tetris, but with a point. Instead of grinding away doing endless lines, you play in rounds to try and colour in the backing picture. And as you do more rounds, you have to complete doubles, then triples to colour in each line. It's a gorgeous version, and we gave it to you for free on an AP cover disc. Again, Tetris is obviously a fantastically famous game of epic proportions, but it's not one that I really spent a lot of time on back in the day. Certainly a game I wouldn't recommend. Of course I'd recommend it. It's not a game that I would have in my own personal top 100. But yeah, the music was great. It kind of had elements that reminded me a little bit of games like Gem X, just the way it looked in some ways. So I'm not sure if that was inspired by Gem X or the other way around really, but yeah, a bit of similarity there to that. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Nice music, quite sad and somber music in the game. Yeah, it's nice though to have that little flashback memory. Yeah, really nice. So in at number 37, Thalion's Storming motorbike racing game uses an incredibly fast polygon engine that looked like it was going to appear in all manner of racing and flying games, but nothing came of it. Instead, this mouse-controlled racer was left on its own as living testament to how motorbike games should be done. This game has got so many nostalgic memories for me. One of the earliest Amiga titles I played on my Amiga 600. Started picking up the One magazine. Remember getting the demo of it. Never had the game back in the day though, but the demo blew me away. I would sit there for ages just listening to the music, watching the intro, watching the raindrops fall down the Thalion intro screen. It was brilliant, but I couldn't play the game. Bloody hell was it tough. No second prize. Yes, certainly recommended. Highly desirable on the Amiga. collectors do like picking this one up. But yeah, I was never really good at it. I'm never really good at any mouse-driven games, to be fair. You've got to take a bit of time to play them, find the right sensitivity for you, and yeah, when you get used to it, it's a cracking game. I mean, that's the furthest I ever got, was getting the footage for this video, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just found it bloody hard in places. Will it be one that features in my top 100? I'm not sure. It certainly will be parked up, because it's certainly a game that, if you gave it much deserved attention, it probably is an excellent racing game. Yeah, no second prize. Will it feature in your top 100? So, number 36, we've got a game by GraphGold, an absolutely fantastic developer they were. It is Speedball 2, but in shorts, and as fast and flowing a football game as you'll ever come across. Try the banana shot. Now, I'm not overly familiar with this game, but presentation wise, graphics and all that look fantastic. Probably one of the best looking football games on the Amiga, and that's Empire Soccer 94. So yeah, it certainly wouldn't be in my personal top 100. I can see why Amiga Power liked it. I mean, I really like playing Total Football as well. Different perspectives to say Kick-Off and Sensible Soccer. It's kind of a more traditional looking footy game really. But yeah, blown away by the presentation of this game. Certainly one I'd like to go back. Certainly one I'd like to go back and play for a lot more time than I actually gave it, to be fair. But a lot of games come out in 94 because of the World Cup in the USA. The World Cup that England wasn't represented in. Yeah, rather grim that was, wasn't it? So yeah, Empire Soccer. So at 35, we've got a platformer. As cute a wee platformy type affair as you could ever hope to find, combined with splendid responsive controls and plenty of bonuses. This one is a re-entry for Carve Up by Core Designer. Quite an early Core game, this one. It's certainly one that I played back in the day on yet another demo disc. This time on the Atari ST. So yeah, I remember this game. I thought it was great fun at the time. And playing it now is just as fun as it was back then, to be fair. You literally are a little car going up and down platformers, avoiding other cars, picking up fruit. You have to changed the colour of the girders or the platforms. There's like little white dots. You have to fill them in. Once you've filled in all the white dots everywhere, you can move on to the next level. But yeah, it's a very good game. Certainly one I would probably want to see in my own Amiga Power Top 100. Because it's a great little platformer. And again, it doesn't come up very often, but it's relatively cheap and certainly worth the money. I've got to say, that's Carve Up. Right, so at number 34 we have a new entry, another public domain game, another game that's quite similar to one we just mentioned a little while back, which was also a public domain game. Yet another game presented by us to you because we care that much. In response to our demands that someone do a version of Super Puyo Puyo, not something I'm familiar with personally, the Haze responded, and after weeks of playtesting by us and tweaking by them, it emerged on Amiga Power 58. Lay your foul eggs in your opponent's mouth, and to the victor, the spoil. So yeah, it's very similar to Tetris. Very similar again to Gem X. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Not my cup of tea, to be completely honest. But a nice looking game nonetheless.
Oh yeah.
Next up at 33 is a game we'll all be familiar with. I certainly like playing the sequel. I certainly like playing probably the next 3 or 4 sequels, to be fair. It's SimCity, only nothing. It's SimCity, just that. Here we go. Simple as that, really. Now, I don't actually have the original SimCity game, which is a shame. But I do have the Architect and some other add-on that come with it. But I do have SimCity Deluxe in all its shine by Infogrames. I didn't actually play this one a lot. I played the second one a hell of a lot on the Amiga. Very slow as it was. So playing this was quite interesting, really, to have a look at how it played. Top-down view. Zoning, as per usual. Residential, industrial, business. Trying to make as much money to survive. Developing your infrastructure. Stuff like that. But it doesn't have a lot of animations like the later versions did have, which is to be expected, really. Unfortunately, I played all the later versions before I played this one. So this one looks very dated. But I know some of you guys probably played this one a hell of a lot back in the day. But for me personally, yeah, probably a little bit late to the scene. But I can imagine this having a humongous and profound impact on gamers worldwide when it got released. So yeah, SimCity. Another absolute classic, a game that I would have played back on the Sinclair Spectrum. Unfortunately, one I didn't enjoy a lot, but it does have a large fan base in the retro community. Looking far too much like a typical isometric ZX Spectrum game to hide the fact that it's a conversion of a Spectrum game. It's a great example of the sort of fun, puzzly arcade adventures that people don't make anymore. Now, I wonder if you can guess what that is. Indeed, it is Head Over Heels. Not something I am overly... well, I don't overly enjoy it, to be fair. 94%, blimey, that's a bit of a steep rating, isn't it? But yeah, I can imagine why people like it. It's quite cute. It was very innovative back in the day. Going up through platforms, combining with another part of your body to achieve certain things within the game. So you play either head or you play as heels. Now, I cannot remember if you actually do combine them or not, or just use them for different purposes. I didn't get very far in the game, to be honest. Certainly wouldn't be in my own top 100. In fact, I can't imagine it being in many people's top 100s, to be fair. I can imagine it being in the top 100 Spectrum games of all time, but not an Amiga one. What are your thoughts? So yeah, one thing I've noticed about this particular 10 games, there's a lot of puzzle games in it. Not a particular favourite genre of mine. So in a 31 we got a game that's too odd to even begin to explain. It's sort of a platform game, but then again, it's sort of many other types of game too. Old, bold, and sadly never to be repeated. Now, a lot of you would be familiar with its prequel. This game is WizKid. A puzzly game, like I said, it's good. It's not a bad game, I've got to say. Not my cup of tea. Game done by Sensible Software. But yeah, completely different to the original game, Whizball, which I'm only becoming accustomed to now, some sort of 35 years later. Before realising it's actually a shoot 'em up and not a bouncy, puzzly game. But this one is a bouncy, puzzling game, which takes a little bit of time to get used to. I'm sure many of you have played this before. I do like the box art. That's one thing that does stand out. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?